Well, hello, friends. Here we are again. I'm Steve. This is Sharon. And you are you. And we are the Oneness Project. All of us. Um, well, we've been discussing this for quite some time this morning, probably for a good hour. And we, we kind of went off on a totally different path than we originally were going to start with. Um, and I'm glad we did, because what we're bringing up today is, I guess the topic would be condemnation, I suppose. It's funny that we just did this about who are our enemies in our last videos. I highly recommend you check it out. And in studying this parable, I suppose you would say, or was it an actual thing that happened? It's not a parable, but this passage, I realized that at first I thought, oh, well, we just talked about our enemies. But the truth is, generally, the mind, the human spirit, doesn't just condemn our enemies. We condemn ourselves. We condemn our closest people. We condemn pretty much everyone in some way, shape, or form. And why? Why do we do that? What is it in us? What are we reaching for? What kind of peace are we trying to acquire in condemnation? What do we think it provides for us that we will likely find through this that it doesn't provide? So the best verse we've seen, and this is probably one of the most famous passages in the Bible. It's not really verse; it's verses. Would be in John 8, 1 to 11. The woman caught in adultery. It's been, I've read books upon books about just this one verse, I think, and heard one passage. I've heard all different sorts of ways of looking at it. And actually, while we were talking about it, I was sort of struggling with it, to tell you the honest truth. And maybe still am. And that's the fun part, is that we don't have it all together here. We are people living within the oneness and coming to new understandings through it. And this is where we're trying to, what I think we're getting across here. So condemnation, and maybe I'll just read the verse. I'll just read through it, and then I'll pass it to you, Sharon, and you can kind of put your spin on it, or what you get from it. And we'll kind of do a little tennis match back and forth, maybe. Who knows? Let's find out. Jesus turned.
What verse are you starting at?
I'll just start from, it's 8:1. It's John 8:1.
1 to 9. Okay.
I'll go right to 11. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. Doesn't say what. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. So, Sharon?
You want my input? Man,
Yeah.
So many thoughts running through my mind as you're reading that. I think the first thing is to understand maybe what sin is, in terms of the oneness of all, what we believe that means. We know that peace is the ultimate goal. Heaven, the Christians would say, they want to get to heaven. But what they're saying is they want to get to this place of perfect peace. And we know Jesus to be the Prince of Peace, or Christ to be the Prince of Peace. So it's all about peace. And as we've said over and over again, when you're outside of peace, when you're feeling condemnation or anger or resentment, all those things are not peaceful feelings, and that means you're in sin. So our definition of sin is anything that you're experiencing that is not in line with peace.
Right.
Okay, so when we look at this story from that perspective, these people who were condemning this woman because she was an adulteress, they say, they were not in peace. They're feeling some sort of a resentment or anger towards her, and those are not peaceful feelings. So they themselves are in sin, meaning they are outside of peace. Okay? And Jesus knows this. Jesus understands the oneness of all. It was his message to us that we're all one. This is where the oneness message originated for us with Jesus's teachings. So when he says to the woman, go, no one has condemned you. I won't condemn you. Now go and sin no more. In my opinion, at least, he's not telling the woman, go and don't commit adultery or don't do what you are doing anymore. He's saying, go and be in peace. Okay? Because sin is outside of peace. So he's saying, go and be at peace. And when you're at peace, this is the beautiful thing. If that woman can find peace within herself, she might not want to be an adulteress anymore. Okay, because when you're at peace, you won't have that motivation that urges you to go and do things to find peace. Okay, and maybe for her, committing adultery or sleeping with others besides her husband, she was searching for peace. Okay? And what Jesus is saying to her, just go find your peace. Okay? Be at peace. So that's my opinion on that story. There is, lots of other examples I could give, modern day examples of how we cast stones at each other all the time. And we're casting stones while we're in sin at the same time. And this is what Jesus says,
But,
if you're sinning and you're casting stones, it doesn't make sense.
Well, condemnation is a indication that we're out of peace. That's it.
Yeah.
That's really what this is about. Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? I personally think that what had happened here was because this person was caught in the act of adultery, and all of these were religious people from religious law and Pharisees. This was an act of basically someone saying this is a lesser person than us, and even though it was of such pride that I believe one of them was the one committing the act, and they said, okay, we're gonna show him right now. We know that this person has committed adultery because I just finished having sex with her, so we're going to test him to say that, if he doesn't say she should be stoned, then we know that he's against the law of Moses and he should be in contempt himself and all of these things like that. And he said, well, obviously one of you must have been the one doing this. So if whoever you are, or if you're not, and I believe it's the specific sin here for in their case. If you're without this sin that you're talking about, then cast the first stone. Because and then the funny thing about this is, okay, maybe the person that wasn't in the act will cast a stone. The problem is the person that was doing it, he knows who was doing it, and they know that she will say who it was. There's something a little bit about this people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. The law did not say when you caught somebody, you can just start throwing stones at them. Right? This isn't, Jesus is saying this, cast the first stone, is not saying pick up a stone and start stoning her right now. There's a process that has to happen. He said, whoever is without the sin, go take her to, see what he's saying? Whoever is without the sin, go take her to the law, to the courts. These were the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. They were not the law. They were the teachers of the law. So they had to take her to the judge. The judge had to plead guilty, and then she would be then stoned. There's a process that comes with that. In that process, you know full well, I know if I'm this woman, I'm going to point out my accuser saying, that's the person I was having sex with. And then that person now will be the one who is also in the act of adultery in her eyes. Now, he might get away with it, because in those days, a woman's accusation really meant little, especially if you were the one committing adultery. But that person's wife or their reputation is still going to be put on panel in front of everybody. That's what I understand is happening here. But the funny thing was he didn't condemn them himself. Jesus didn't condemn the people. He didn't even condemn those that were condemning her. He simply said, go ahead and do it, but knowing that they would condemn themselves. And then at the end of this, he said, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? And she said, no, Lord. And she said, neither do I. Now go sin no more. Now, what does he mean by that? He's equating sin with the condemnation. So now go and not condemn them anymore, or yourself for that matter. The sin is in the condemning, is what Jesus is saying. The law in the Old Testament was a list of condemnations. If you do this, you will surely die. That was in the Genesis. It says that God apparently was telling them that in doing this, you will surely die. You will. It created death. We condemned ourselves to death, to this idea of death. We condemned our mind, the one mind condemned us to death when we stopped believing in the truth. There's no such thing as death. We all live forever. But when we live in condemnation, you might as well be dead. You might as well be dead right now. If you're condemning someone else or condemning yourself, if I am condemning myself, if I am condemning other people, and I sure did, I condemn people like crazy. Nobody more than myself. Because when I condemned others, I condemned myself more. Because I sure as heck would almost always be able to come up with a way that I did the very same thing that somebody else did, or something close to it. And the way I would tend to solve it was just find people worse.
You can always find somebody worse than you, right? You're in that state of mind. Yeah. Steve, what you just said is true. I agree with everything. The thing that I find so amazing is that there is so much condemnation in our society. today. It's pervasive. I told you years ago I had a client who hated George Bush, you know, and I'm not into politics, by the way. I don't vote. I might get condemned for saying that, but I just, anyway, it's not my thing. But I never had the impulse to condemn George Bush. At the time, it was George Bush. Now it's Donald Trump or it's Obama. We always finding somebody to point a finger at, to say that person is such a bad person, forgetting, as Jesus pointed out in this scripture, that we are not without sin ourselves, you know? So we're just trying maybe to find somebody who is worse than us so that we can feel better about ourselves. I don't know why we do that, but it is very pervasive. But if we want peace in the world, the way to get peace in the world is to first be at peace with your own sin. Okay, if you want to call it sin. Be at peace with your the negative aspects of yourself, so that you can then be at peace with the negative aspects of others. I don't know of a better way to come to peace than that. But yeah, that's the bottom line of what I think this message today is about. It's, if we cannot condemn others, then we will have more peace within ourselves and more peace on earth.
Yeah. Well, condemning would mean, again, this to the oneness understanding. This is the way to not condemn is through the oneness belief, leads to non-condemnation, because it helps us remember that we've been everything that there is, and we are fully capable of doing everything. And this is the most difficult thing that I find keeps people from peace. Is the belief is something in us wants to not believe that we can be anything. The worst thing you could possibly think a human being doing, you can do and have done and will do, because we're all under the same mind. And when we realize that, the more we realize, each individual consciousness realize that, this is the more Christ-like we as a individual consciousness becomes, and the less it happens. But the more we condemn it, the more we walk outside of the oneness, and the more we walk in what we would call supposedly Gehenna. Now, that does create a contrast to peace. We go back to our old videos all over and over and over again. I don't know why, it just came to my memory this lifetime that I think we just get tired, don't we? I think it just get tired. I just get tired of condemning.
Oh yeah, you get to the point where you realize that you're not, by condemning and hating and being in anger and all those things, you're just not finding that rest within yourself, and then maybe you just give up, and then you give in to the oneness. That's when you come to the end of your rope, and maybe at that point you'll discover, oh, this is why I wasn't finding peace.
Yeah. And again, back to Mark 9, if you go through that, we did video. I'll put the video down in the bottom so I don't go through it all again. But it's Jesus kind of says that we don't have to go through the extreme of exhaustion to accept the truth of the oneness concept. When we're looking at this specific people, this woman was, we talked about this. As a woman, women don't want to throw their bodies around and be used by men. There isn't a woman out there. Either maybe they don't have the mental capacity to understand it, but for the most part, it's simply kind of like I got to survive, or it's out of some sort of fear, and certainly not satisfaction. Jesus is not saying, hey, don't sleep with other men anymore, like some sort of condemnation. He's saying, like, have peace so you won't want to anymore. Just don't. When we have now, I've reached this point where, and this is the last video we did about the pearl of great price. When we find the pearl, when we find the peace, when we exhaust ourselves from all the other pearls that don't accomplish peace, it's like, I don't know, it's sell it all away. Yeah, take it. I don't want it anymore. You can hate me. I love you anyways because I want my peace.
Yeah.
I want my peace. That's it. And I love you. And then I just find that I love people more and more now. Even those that are hurting or whatever, that try to hurt me or say things to me, I can just identify with it. I've been there. I know I've been there. Maybe I don't remember it right now, but I know I've been there. I've done that. No doubt about it. And that person will definitely see the contrast from that somewhere down the road. Maybe through these videos, people can see the contrast and go right now and go, oh, I'm not going to be salted by fire anymore. I don't want the fire. I'm going to live in the peace.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And we'll keep saying this over and over. We're going to sound like a stuck record, but
it's okay.
You know,
I mean, condemnation is the biggest one, isn't one, and it's not over yet. Too, there's many ways that we don't live in peace. Sometimes we don't. I don't know. Sometimes we just don't understand why we're not in peace. And I find that these videos for me show me sometimes why I'm not, right?
Right.
Like, this isn't just like, oh, hey, we got it all figured out. You guys, you listen to this. I'm listening to these videos, and every day I go, oh, yeah, wow, that's even more peace. That's freaking awesome. I didn't know I even had that in there. Or, like the relationship I have with the people where I'm like, what am I annoyed with there? Why am I not having peace in that situation? And I'll remember some of the videos we do, like it'll come to me and I'll be like, oh yeah, Sharon said that. That's right. Okay. I'm choosing peace there.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. We're doing this for ourselves, maybe first and foremost. We are wanting to stay in remembrance of the oneness of who we are so that we can have peace continually in our lives because we're susceptible to sin just like anyone else. And there is a thing called forgetfulness. So in doing these videos, we are continually reminding ourselves. So it's therapy for us, and we're sharing that with you.
Yeah. As much as I asked for, if you have it in your heart to do so, to subscribe and hit the bell so you get the notifications and to increase the algorithm for more people here. The truth of the matter is, I have other channels that I do as well. One for sports and stuff like that. And I'm always watching to see how many people are, because I want this video to grow. It's the way I make money or energy for myself. But this one, I really actually don't. As much as I want more people to do this, I only want the people that want it to come. And for the most part, I'm doing it for myself. The heart of this, in fact, this passage we just brought really made me aware that helped me be aware that the Christ in me is saying to me, have peace within myself, go off and not condemn anymore. It's not saying go try to fix anybody. I'm not trying to fix anybody here. If this isn't resonating with you, go off with your life. I love you, and that's fine. But if it is, wonderful. I love to share in the peace with you as well. But the main thing is, I don't think this peace doesn't travel without having peace within ourselves. That's the first thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's how it spreads. Starts here. Starts here.
Well, I think that's it's good for today. I don't have anything more to say about this, do you?
No, I think we delivered as much as we needed to now. So
Yeah. So, anyways, boys and girls, I hope you're having peace within yourselves. Again, any comments are what wanted, I suppose it would be. I would be appreciated actually, whether you agree or disagree or have more to say about it or what have you. I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section. And until next time, have peace within yourselves if you can. Lots of love to you.